What makes a good founder?
I failed 6 times in my startup. But when I created the first successful startup, then never underestimate a persistent founder.
Next time, be very, cautious about it. Maybe your founder is right there in that open space at that office.
Go ahead, but I don't think that's going to be a good idea. And he kept doing it. And after 3 years.
If you want to ruin a friendship or if you want to ruin a relationship, start doing a business, and that's very tricky thing to do.
Nowadays, he has a $1 billion company.
Wow. Team up, come to Kickbox with your idea, and who knows? Incubators.
Overrated. If you don't enjoy 40% of your life, you're putting it in the garbage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Innovation Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, a person who is a founder, entrepreneur, who is the strategic advisor for your open innovation topics to Fortune 500 companies, professor at IE Business School, startup mentor, and a very dear friend, Rafael Salazar. Welcome, Rafa.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be part of a series of innovation conversations at Basha.
Can you please give a little bit of introduction about your background, what have you been doing, some of the projects you've been involved to, and to set the context for our audience?
Sure. It's hard to define in one thing, but I'll say everything around what I do it has to do with innovation and ideas made reality. That being teaching about entrepreneurship, that being creating startups or doing consulting for big companies on how to run innovation internally and externally. So everything has to do about creating ideas, and I would like to call it making impact into action. And that's how I have been defining myself lately in one sentence.
Yeah. Right now, out of all, and you are wearing various hats, right? You are doing very different things. What is motivating and driving you the most? Where you see most of the value or impact?
Yeah. This is interesting because this year 2024 I've made a full stop in my journey to reflect on what I've been doing the last 10 years and what I want to do in the next 10 years. So that defining the next 10 years of your life is very hard because you don't know where you're going to be in the next year, So imagine multiplying by 10. But what I know and what resonates with me is that whatever I do, I want to do something that creates a small spark in at least one person around me. That could be a student in a classroom, that you open the eyes for entrepreneurship, or that could be some leader in a company that decides to open the corporation for innovation, or that could be someone using one of our products in their startup that sees value in what we're doing. So it's broader than impact because for me, it's what drives me more is how can you light up a spark in anyone that actually gets something from what we're doing in terms of value.
Yeah, that very much resonates with me because usually we are in rush of large projects, those which are worth spending our life to. But in fact, what really matters are these, small connections and one person that can, you can turn that spark can create a lot of impact.
Exactly.
But you never know about that, it's sort of you give that and hoping that it will grow into something more.
Yes, and one of the things I'm trying to convince myself right now is doing things without expecting any feedback about it, and which is very hard because when you teach or you do consulting or something, you're used to getting the feedback from your student or from your client. And what I'm learning, I'm reading a book right now, which is about the power of doing great without expecting any feedback. So you have to be confident that what you're doing is creating an impact. And what if you never know about it? What if the student never tells you that they decided to start a company after they went to one of your sessions? Or what if the company you're advising decided to open a startup without telling you it was because one of your workshops? But if you never get that feedback, would you be fulfilled with your mission? And I think that's one of the challenges for us. Consultants, entrepreneurs, we are overachievers in general. So you need to be confident enough that whatever you're doing is good enough, even if you don't get a feedback from the person.
But that is the most challenging thing to do.
Yeah.
To not to seek for external validation, rather to turn into the inner, your inner compass.
Yeah.
Am I moving in the right direction or wrong direction?
It's more like a purposeful reflection on what you're doing. You need to be good with yourself before creating impact to someone else. So that's my philosophy for the next chapter of my life, which is, I don't know, it's very exciting. It's very exciting, and I've been doing this transformation in 2024 for the next 10 years of my life.
Oh, okay. And I believe from that perspective, your definition of success has changed, evolved too, right?
Yeah.
And probably it has changed a lot, throughout your career and life.
It has, definitely. I would say when I was out of university, for me, success was having a stable job, which was what everyone was dreaming of when you are 23, 24. What you look into the next life is, a professional career, a stable job. And that was a measurement of success. But as I grew up, I realized I was not a corporate person. I was not meant to be in an office. So I started doing startups, entrepreneurship, and then success transformed into can I make my company survive? So success was not stability, but surviving in the startup. And when I started I failed a lot. I failed 6 times in my startups. But when I created the first successful startup, then the definition of success transitioned from surviving to making like profits or a business model work. But then you realize that the money is a result, it's not the purpose of the startup. So now that I'm in the third transition, which is after you create a successful startup, what is value? No, what is the purpose of it is the impact that you leave. That is the new definition of success for me. How impactful can you be with whatever you're creating?
Yeah, that's very interesting because I also early in my career I was after this measurable indicators of a success. How much I earn. I don't know what are the scopes of the project that I'm doing, etc. But at some point, I figured out that it's not what I want to go after. I want to maybe do less, but those which are in an alignment with my values, with what I want to spend my life to. But that is also a bit of challenge. For now, I believe what I'm trying to do is to find that, I don't want to say balance, but some sort of middle ground between doing things and being honest to who I am and what I stand for.
Yeah.
And going more into that, honesty with myself, clarity with myself, and clarity with the world. That is currently.
Yeah. That is 100% aligned with it. And there is a famous book by Simon Sinek that he says, "Why do you wake up in the morning and why would anyone care?" So what are you doing now that is aligned with your values in your actions? And why would anyone buy anything you create from that point of view? So that it seems like a simple sentence, but it has to do more with the purpose of why you're doing it. It's not to create a product or to create a service or to transform a company into more innovative. Is why. From where are you making the action? From where? What is vibrating inside you in your values that you're transforming it into a company, a product, a service, or a class? Why do you do what you do when you're teaching? And this is for me, the new chapter that I'm envisioning in my life is it has to do a lot with education, as I think that this is the most transformative tool for any society is. So I want to dedicate a lot to education, training, living sparks of inspiration to students and participants in my workshop. And this is, of course, it's easy to see it when you already checked a lot of things in your life. No, you create a company, good. You worked as in your dream job, check. And now it's more about the legacy. What are you leaving to make something a little bit better than you found it? So this is the new impact that I'm looking to.
Yeah. And I would agree with you on that you need to go through these cycles. You cannot cheat the system. You are going through the cycle of,
exactly.
I don't know, going through overachievement, etc. And then you come, this spiral keeps moving up, and then that is where you end
exactly.
up.
That is
to go through that.
So there is no shortcut.
Yeah, no shortcut. You have to take the stairs.
Yeah, 100%.
One thing that I've been reading lately about is, now a lot of people are talking about, going into vulnerability, emotional sensitivity, connecting with yourself more. But then how that is affecting ambition, drive, are they, in your opinion, I'm just curious how it works with you, do you think that they are against each other? I mean, the more
interesting,
the more you are moving into this emotionally knowing, understanding yourself, and through that understanding the world around you better, does it make you really less ambitious in a very classic definition of that word, or no?
Interesting.
How would that work?
Interesting. I think 10 or 11 years ago, I was a volunteer for TED.com, the education platform for 20-minute videos. Okay, and I was in one of the main events in the US, and I remember watching live one of the most powerful tech talks I've ever watched, which is Brené Brown, and the name of the topic was the power of vulnerability. So why people are afraid to be vulnerable? It's I highly recommend to watch the video. It's it turns upside down the perception of success and how society sees powerful people about it. So it turns out that what we see as strong leadership or successful people are those who hide emotions and vulnerability in their actions. So think about the definition that even if you ask AI or the new generation, what they perceive as strong leadership is people who are powerful, confident, successful, no emotions, like all the rational aspects of your life is what takes over your actions. And in fact, imagine 12 years ago, I think it was 2012, Brené Brown said, you know what? What makes people admire the leaders is not how strong they are or how much they hide emotions, is how vulnerable they let themselves be and how they accept the human being aspect of everyone. So a leader that is compassionate, a leader that is empathetic, a leader that is understanding and has strong emotional intelligence is actually the person who's going to be more respected by the people. But we tend to think the opposite. So for me, it's not contradictory or there is no clash between strong skills and soft skills. Actually, soft skills should be more important than hard skills. And even more with the new emerging technologies, actually soft skills are going to be more relevant than ever. Because you ask AI anything and they'll give you the hard skill answer. But what about the emotional impact? What about the reflection on the subjective matters that make us human beings? So I was listening to a podcast last night. One of the few things, this is Yuval Noah Harari, who said, one of the one of the few things that we have left is the power of emotions and emotional presence. That's it. So how do you make the new understanding of what leadership means, and what if we dare to let the emotions flow as much as the strong and hard skills of our leadership? So that's something it's not easy, but I think it's complementary, and it's actually what drives people to be a leader, is to be more empathetic than anyone else.
We just returned from quite a long visit to Silicon Valley. And just I'm coming to your point about vulnerability and the effect that it's having on people. And there I was participating in one panel discussion where we were talking about the power of community, because one of the things that we are doing there right now is building the community of founders from this region, that they also have a space to come and to get support and the power from. And the point, my point was that, we are used to seeing that what is inspiring are these, success stories, these powerful images, people who made it, who have gone through so many difficulties, but finally, this, the end game is amazing, brilliant. But what is actually empowering is vulnerability.
Yeah.
There is nothing more empowering than that, because the people are understanding, I'm not alone in that.
Yeah.
There are so many other people going through that. And honestly, I haven't seen anything more empowering than this. Yeah.
Great.
Talking about the mentorship, and just for our audience, I met Rafa when he was mentoring me when I was the founder of one of the startups, one of many, not many, but several. Or I'll talk about it a bit later, but then it grew into friendship. It was a very interesting experience. What is mentorship for you?
Wow.
How you are approaching, because you are mentoring a lot of teams and across the world.
Yeah.
Coming from different cultural background, I'm not even talking about the industries, what they're specializing in, teams themselves. What is your approach to how you are usually doing this?
Yeah. So for defining mentoring in a more holistic aspect is not easy, but I could say it's condensing your vision of the world and putting that seed into someone else's mind, so they understand your experience, your learnings, everything you've gathered in terms of knowledge and acquiring avoiding mistakes in your life. So it's like getting the juice of your experience, condense it in one pill, one medicine, if we could call it a medicine or not, and giving that to someone, saying, hey, this is my experience, is biased because it's subjective, it's gone through me, so it's born from me, and giving that to say, hey, avoid my mistakes, but be careful because you might have another mistakes that I'm not considering. So mentoring is giving that condensation of knowledge and experience and emotional learnings to someone as a sign of trust. Hey, I trust you. We're connecting by giving you my learnings condensed in mentoring sessions. So you take the pill and you decide if you have the need of that medicine or not. Because mentoring is subjective. Because if I'm a fintech entrepreneur, so I've created several startups in the fintech industry, and I could tell you, don't do that, or go here and don't go there. But that was my experience in my time with my given conditions. But maybe it's not the same for you. So it's okay. What was my learning that I can give you as a transmission of knowledge that it could be perhaps useful for you from my perspective. So I think it's an act of kindness in an act of healing, because I want you not to do the same mistakes I did through my career.
Yeah. I can relate to that a lot. And mentorship is very subtle, because on one hand, you wanna sort of guide, but on the other hand, not to intervene much, because you can take the ownership. And specifically when we're talking about mentoring founders of startups, it's a very, I want to say, risky game to play, because they're very, very subtle line between, guiding. My mentorship experience with you, I believe I told you that a lot, is that what you were doing, particularly with me and my co-founder back then, is you've been creating a very safe space, not judging, to bring any issues. And it has never, and you know what was happening is that with you, it was so easier to reflect on what is happening. And at the end of every single session, there was so much clarity about, what is it that's happening and what is it that I want to do as the next step. And by the end of that journey, when I was reflecting back, I knew that there were points when you probably knew that it was the wrong thing to do, but you would never tell that,
Sometimes you see it so clear, but you cannot say, because they need to go through.
Right.
It's like going to therapy. Like sometimes the therapist will not tell you what to do, but just ask you open questions. Because sometimes you have your own answers, but you just need to verbalize the problem. Put the problem. Put the problem here. Put it visible. Verbalize it. Say it to me in words. What's going on? It could be some technical issue, or it could be some team issue, or some personal issues. Okay, put it into words. What's going on? And the moment you open that space, like we are in a circle of trust with the team, and whatever you say is going to stay here, and people verbalize it. The moment you say it, you're putting a name to it, and probably you visualize the way you need to go. So the mentor is, of course, it has experience, because when you ask me, well, would you do a business in that area? I say, well, my experience is not that good because X, Y, Z. But also it's on the other side. It's like asking the open questions to the team, so they open themselves. And sometimes the team has the answer itself. You don't need to intervene. You just need to create the atmosphere for the confidence.
And allow enough of, if the answer is not there, allow time for the founder to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking that if back then you would, make a harsh intervention in terms of saying what to do, etc., you would steal from me, because in that journey I was learning at a pace that I could learn back then, and you were just there, bringing light and clarity for me to walk that path. That was a very interesting journey, honestly.
And I think there is an important role of organizing the ideas. Like when you're in the startup, you have a lot of noise, like decisions, and money is a thing, and raising rounds, and the team, and the product, and the customers, and what am I gonna do? It's messy. It's like a roller coaster. And the mentor has seen that mess before, has seen the fog around the startup, and he or she should provide the clarity to pick the important things, take them out, okay, like shake them, put it on the table in a sort of like a picture this, okay. You've been talking for the last 2 hours, and everyone has been crazy here in the room. Okay, these are my takeaways. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you put them on the table, and then they go like, "Whoa, that was a thing," and they told you already that came from them. So sometimes the role of a mentor is to remove the fog and the clouds in the thinking, and just put the ideas in order. And that requires a lot of like grabbing sentences, asking open questions, and digging into conversations with the team. But it's you gotta like it, because it's more like a psychological thing. Yeah.
You have mentored again a lot of teams, a lot of founders. In your opinion, what makes a good founder? I mean, we have the textbook answers, etc. We have, I don't know, a lot of articles written on that, researches, but like your maybe reflection or your observation.
Maybe my answer is going to be incomplete because I wouldn't say there is one single factor here. I think there is a combination of different factors for everyone. Like for me, being a good founder is allocating time to what I'm doing, because I'm doing so many things right now that if I were to create a company right now, I would need to drop some of my current projects. So for me, if I talk to myself, I would say, hey, focus on something. But when I see, for example, the students I've mentored in the business school, the ones I'll say, wow, if I would invest in a startup, it would be this guy's startup. And that person that comes, I have like 4 or 5 people that come to my mind. The attribute that I find in common in those 4 or 5 people are those who were very insistent. I was, for example, I was giving several courses at the same time. They were asking me for extra hours. Can we meet with you? Can we? Like, wow, man, I have no time. And they were insistent, and through several channels on emails, on chat or phone, they were even stopping me at the hall in the university. Like, yeah, we need an hour. And at some point you say, okay, I'll give you, let's meet tonight, whatever. I'll give you my extra personal time. And those people who are like absorbing that hour with you, it's like their highlight of the day. Those founders, for me, it's more like a pleasure to mentor them, because they're really waiting for that piece of advice from you. And they really want to do it. They want to be they want to do something with their ideas. And I have in my, it's not about culture, because I remember a guy from Colombia, a girl from Chile, a guy from Georgia, a Saudi girl that I met last year. Like these people that actually leave a mark in your life. Like, wow, this girl insisted so much in talking to me, in asking me for mentorship, and now she's a very successful startup founder in Chile. Or the guy in Colombia, I remember this is an example I always use in my classes. You never underestimate the power of an idea. This guy was in my class. He was proposing a crazy idea. I thought it was a crazy idea that would make no sense in Latin America. And I was insisting, like, thank you, professor, but I'm gonna do it even if you don't like it. He was like, I said, well, go ahead, but I don't think that's gonna be a good idea. And he kept doing it. And after 3 years, he kept contacting me via email, like, professor, I want you to be in my board of advisors. And I say, man, I don't believe in the idea. I think it's a crazy idea. Nowadays, he has a $1 billion company in Colombia. And this is one of the biggest learnings for me. Never underestimate a persistent founder who is so committed to doing something, who is so convinced of the power of his or her idea that they actually take it to the next level, no matter what the world is telling them. I was telling them it's a crazy idea. All the professors were telling this guy, we don't see the value, but he saw something that we didn't see. He had another perspective. Of course, we're biased. I mean, if I knew all the aspects of every industry, I wouldn't be here. I would be, creating companies every day. But he was seeing something that we were not seeing. And he was so insistent, and persistent, like, I want you to help me. And I didn't see it. And it's one of my biggest regrets and learnings, like being humble enough to accept that most of the time, I'm not going to see it. And now we have a very good relationship. I invite him to my classes like about what not to do when you're mentoring. Do not underestimate the power of an idea, because this guy took a very basic idea into $1 billion business, and I didn't see it coming, because you're always like, you have the flash of big startup ideas, and sometimes the little ideas, the simple stories, the personal things that people see in their life that they know they're important for their communities or societies, is sometimes those ideas that make it to the big leagues. And that's a learning here.
Rafa, do you see that a lot among Azerbaijani founders? And I want you be very, very honest here, because it's a very honest conversation.
Yeah.
I will reflect on on the founders that we have been working on, and I'll also be very honest.
Yeah.
Do you see that a lot?
I see sparks in the eyes of people here. Some people that I come here to teach in 6 universities, and most of the students are very young. We're talking about, I was asking today in my class, how old are you? And they were like 18, 19. So, wow, this is very young. I could be your dad, and that's a lot. And these students, some of them, they have no idea about entrepreneurship, because it's a new thing in the region. It's a region that has not been used to or exposed to big successes in entrepreneurship. I mean, unicorns in the region are very rare. And I'm not saying this is a measurement of success, but I'm saying this is inspiration. Okay, when you see someone that is on the news, on the newspaper, on the front magazine, okay, on the front page. So the inspirations in the US, of course, you have millions, but the inspirations in more in such countries like Latin America or this region are very few. So the inspiration factor is not pulling these people out of their traditional jobs. Okay. So when you're studying university, your perception about your career is not being an entrepreneur. Right? Not yet. That's coming. It's coming here. But when I teach about entrepreneurship in Azerbaijan, in the universities, sometimes I see people sitting and coming back to my classes and sitting in the first row. Like, why are you sitting in the first row? So what is it? What is it in for you? Why are you taking this so serious? And I see sparks in them, and taking notes and taking pictures and adding me on LinkedIn and following up with conversations. Like, that's the attitude. That's a persistence that I see in Spain, in the US, in Latin America, that I'm starting to see here in Azerbaijan. 3 years ago, when we came here for the first time, I didn't see that spark. It was just like, who is this guy? What is he? What is he talking about? We don't know any scale up in Azerbaijan. There were no scale ups in Azerbaijan. Now you start seeing some things happening here. So it takes a while until the wheel is moving and it's getting traction. And I think now it's getting interesting traction, because you have a couple of startups coming out of the shadow, a couple of startups being successful, moving to or expanding to Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan or even the Middle East or Turkey. So there are some examples where a young generation can get inspiration from. And you have 2 ways, the typical framework in consulting or entrepreneurship. You have 2 ways of inspiring people or creating the startup movement. You give them the hard skills, you teach them, which is something we're doing here. You give training, education, workshops, and you give them the hard skills and the soft skills. And on the other side, they need to be pulled from the top down, from the inspiration. So I see someone, I see a woman that is successful. I see a guy that made it, that created a successful startup that is creating jobs in my country. And that's where I want to be. It's not about being the CEO of a corporation. It's being that role model of entrepreneurship. I want to be there in 10 years. So it's inspiration plus knowledge. So you have the bottom up and the top down approach. And I think that's a very interesting model that Azerbaijan is doing now in terms of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And it's very interesting in that now we see all these different models, right? We see Silicon Valley as a model. We see, European ecosystem. We see Singapore ecosystem. But none of them are easy to duplicate here. I mean, we are not supposed to be duplicating.
No.
It's all about getting inspired and then finding the way how make it work here in this country, in this region, so that, more people are getting involved, that we start seeing, small exits, and then these founders are coming back with skill set who has passed, all the way from an idea to some sort of exit, and they bring back the money, the expertise. And that is where, next cycle, it's going to go bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is probably what we should be, focusing on right now.
You have to do it your own way. There is no formula. Silicon Valley was Silicon Valley. There were certain conditions back in the 50s with HP, like Hewlett Packard and Stanford University and Berkeley. So there were conditions that is like the perfect storm, the right humidity, the right water, the right place, the heat that creates a storm condition. How can you replicate that? You cannot replicate a Stanford University everywhere. So in Stanford, I mean Stanford because it's like one of the pillars of Silicon Valley, but that it's a vicious cycle. So more startups bring more investment bring more talent require more education require better advisors, better professors. It's a cycle. So how do you replicate this ecosystem? There is no formula. And this has been studied in many countries, like Israel, the startup nation. I forgot the name. This guy that is pushing Israel to be one of the main poles of innovation. You have Singapore making regulation for startups and founders to settle down and give them tax credits. You have the Scandinavian countries, or even Lithuania and Estonia, they want to be startup friendly. And now you have Ireland giving tax. There is a lot of tax incentives. Even Latin America, you have Costa Rica being a startup friendly with no taxes, no visas, giving like incentives to startup founders. Or Startup Chile. There was a movement in last years where the government gave money to anyone who wanted to settle a company in Chile, in South America. So you have government trying to replicate the model, but it's not that easy. Yeah. You have to be unique. You have to be your own style. But there is a combination, of course, of education, investment, and public and private investment, and very startup-friendly regulation from the government.
Yeah. Cannot agree more on that. But coming back to your point about founders who have this spark, and this is, I believe, what we are doing right now in the ecosystem, because we have already, VC culture being established. There are, in the last year has been a lot of, VCs which started functioning. We are still learning to do that. We have already good incubator accelerators who know how to transfer, who know what are the hard skills that are supposed to be taught. We are bringing in people, mentors who can guide the founders through that journey. And right now, what we are all working on the founders, who are these people who can now, so we are creating the environment, but who can make the most of that environment and then blossom,
The human factor.
That is quite a challenge.
It is.
That is quite a challenge.
It is.
In our corporate incubator accelerator program, we are accelerating around 100 ideas per year. It's like 100 founders.
Yeah.
And being a founder in corporate, it's challenging because you have a full-time job. Usually these people have their mortgages, families, or, whole list of backlog and everything to take care of. But also, these are very specific type of people who had this itch, who sort of want to do something, and who are always not indifferent. I mean, they sort of rarely complain, but if they see something that need to be fixed, they would rather spend their time figuring out how to fix that rather than complaining about it. And we have seen that certain traits consistent from one cohort to another. But then again, there are those whose motivational cycle is very short. So they start and then poof, go down.
Yeah.
But there are those who are very consistent. They would be texting me, my team, that I need this, I need, this vendor, I need to talk to that person from that company, I need that data, I need, and these are the ones who are making actually till the end of the program, who are raising investment, who are moving forward. What I'm trying to figure out is that what is that differentiates these people, who are there to grab everyone to put under one table and get what they wanna get. Haven't figured out that yet, because
not an easy job.
If we hack that, then we will understand, where to get more of these people, and to create a stronger pool or stronger, communities of founders. But don't know.
There, I mean, working now as a consultant, working for corporations in the innovation side. It has to come from them. You cannot create an innovator. It has to be there. And we've done a lot of programs where we have this test. We call it the innovation agent, like an agent test. And there are several skills that you need to identify in one person in order to be like a hustler, like I want this, I want this. And so there is one data-backed analysis of certain attributes and conditions, but there has to be also the motivation. Okay, maybe you have the profile, but if you don't want to do it, so you need to have the skills and the motivation, and that there is of course like standardized tests where you can measure the soft skills and hard skills of people. But the motivation has to be within the culture of the company. What I mean by this is maybe I'm motivated to create a startup within my company, but if I don't feel the culture of a company to be on my side, I'm never going to raise my hand. Why would I want more work if I'm not getting paid for it, or I don't have the time to do it, or my manager, my boss has no KPIs for me in terms of innovation, or I just don't feel this is the place for me. What if I make a mistake? Am I going to be penalized for this? So is there a punishment for failing in a corporation? So there are a lot of factors here. It's a multi-factor problem. Okay, you need incentives. You need to give them time. You need to empower them. You need to give them resources. And a safety, like a safe place for failure.
Yeah. That is very hard to do.
It is, but there are examples.
What we are, one of the things that we are trying to unlock is that for, if you take, for example, demo days, a regular demo day, the founder is coming and pitching in front of the investor, right? And they receive the feedback, and then in the best case scenario, they take it somewhere from there. But in the most cases scenario, that's where it ends, right? But these are the investors. They must probably not see anytime soon in their lives.
Oh, no, yeah.
But in our case, founders are pitching in front of their bosses,
which is
very vulnerable place to be. And these are very brave people. And that is why what we are trying to do right now is how to honor that mere act of bravery, when you are there in front of, very big bosses and pitching your idea and receiving that feedback and taking.
And it's not easy to be in that position, because if you pitch a good idea to your boss and it's like, So you have your regular job. Okay, it's your work with your backlog of tasks and whatever, and your KPIs. And then on top of that, you're creating a new idea within the company. And there is a study on this from Harvard Business Review. And if on top of your work, you're doing a startup, and that startup is actually good, it's like standing out from the rest, there is one effect that is I don't remember the name, but is like contradictory. Your boss is going to think, so you've been spending more time on this than on the task that you're supposed to be doing. So it has like a counter effect. So, okay, you've done a lot. You've done the research, validation, prototype, you've launched the idea, you have customers. So you've not been doing your job, or what is it? Or you cannot have two lives. So that's one very good, important aspect of what we do in our open innovation strategies, is to separate. And I think in Emerge, the session with Linda, Professor Linda from Harvard, she said, you need to separate the entity and give them their own KPIs, their own time management team, resources, freedom to fail. And if you fail, that's okay. You will go back to your corporation again. There is no risk. So if you knew you're not going to risk anything in your life, you have your own roadmap, KPIs, resources, and your boss is not going to be measuring you by what you do, but instead he's going to be pushing you to innovate, there are more chances of success. But the problem is that I remember in the workshop we had is, how do you connect this entity to the corporation so they don't see it as an external thing? And that's a challenge. There is no one formula here. So how do you put it in the corporation, but separate it enough from the day-to-day operation and integrate it back? So this is a challenge of open innovation. Yeah. How do you do this?
Yeah.
And there are good examples of companies that are doing pretty well, like the Google 20% format, or the IBM 100 startups. There are many companies who actually created so powerful, like very powerful startups from their own employees. How they do it is about the company culture. It's about creating a safe space for failure. It's okay if you don't meet your KPIs. It's okay if you spend the money and didn't get anything. You learned from it, and next time you're probably not gonna make the same mistakes. So that's one of the learnings here.
Yeah, very much. And in our case, there's also one more thing, is that startup founders by skill set are almost identical and similar to the product owners. Because what they need to know well is how to build empathy with the customer, how to understand their problem, and how to build something which will be solving their problem in a way that they're ready to pay for that, right? So, how to put all these pieces together. And the people who are experiencing it in a relatively, space sandbox, which is safe for failing, safe for, making things wrong many times unless you figure out, how to do it right, then they are becoming also very valuable people at their own workplace, at the main job that they're doing. So what if we build linkage through that? But that is very challenging.
Absolutely. And I see a cultural difference, not here, but between countries or culture that stigmatize failure. Like Latin America is a culture that stigmatizes failure a lot. You fail, you hide it under the carpet, and it didn't happen. In Europe, it depends where you go. You go to Southern Europe, Latin cultures such as Portugal, Italy, France, Spain. Failure is part of the story you don't want to tell anyone. But you go to North, Scandinavian countries, Canada, US, failure is learning. And I remember when I was interviewing for a big tech company in the US. Now it was a startup, and now it's a scale up. And when I did the interview, I was interviewing for to be product owner of their very big product. And the guy asked me, how many times you failed in your life? And I said, wow, not many. Okay, you're not my team. I want people who failed. I want people who learned what they failed from. I want people who has resilience. And I was like, no, can I make it up? Like, no, you got to be honest to yourself. I don't want anyone who's hiding failure here. I was like, wow, man, that's a different mindset. Imagine in Spain talking to my interviewee, my manager. I want to talk to you about my failures in an interview. You'll be fired the next day, So that this is the culture that makes a difference. From day one, I want people who failed, and I want to know what you learned and how much resilience you built from that learning.
Sure. And just to clarify to our audience, that is what we mean by failure. Failing strategically.
Exactly.
Knowing what you are doing and then understanding, then you totally can reflect, what is it that didn't work and what is it you're going to be doing different next time. Because, and what is the key measure here probably is how much the founder is invested into the process.
Yeah.
Because outcome depends on so many different factors, and most of the time these factors, you do not even control them. What you are controlling is how much input you are giving into the process, like how flexible you are, iterating, unless you are finding what is it working. And if you are doing all that and still it doesn't work, but you have learned, that is the failure that we want to honor. We want to celebrate actually, but not the one that it was because of lack of focus, for example, that we mentioned earlier.
That's very good, very important.
Because we need to differentiate when we are talking about failure culture, and it also can create misperception. All right, does it imply that I can stop working now and then it's gonna be good?
You're right. We need to make a distinction here between failure. When I talk about failure and resilience, is most of the ideas aren't gonna work. But what are you doing in your as a person to try to make them work? And if it didn't, sometimes it's serendipity that makes things work. And I remember when I did my MBA, I had a professor that shocked me. Like he did a study. I did my MBA in Columbia University. He was the VC professor of venture capital. He analyzed the 1,000 startups that raised money and were successful in the US in the last 10 years, that raised more money and were most successful in terms of valuation. And almost all of them had a factor of serendipity. And what I mean by this is something coincidental happened. And I remember he explained about like a beer company that went extremely successful and popular in the US, in a hard seltzer company in south of Texas. And he explained the factor that made those companies suddenly grow. And he interviewed the founders and said, what was the major factor that made you to be successful? They said, well, because this happened, or because pandemic happened, or because the regulation was in my favor. So even if you follow the playbook, like the step-by-step into entrepreneurship, you're not guaranteed to be successful. So there are some factors of serendipity, something that falls from the heaven, like boom. Something happened, a condition in the environment, a regulation, a social trend, or a change in perception from the customer, something that happened external to you. So it's not within your own logic or reasoning. You did ABC as we tell you to do. Some people make it, some people don't make it. So this is a very interesting analysis. What were the key factors of these 1,000 companies in the US? It was the pure coincidence and serendipity of the external factors. So even though if you have the culture, the mindset, the skills, and the environment and the ecosystem, sometimes you rely in a factor of luck. And by luck, I mean not by, I'm lucky because no, some external conditions that, yeah, exactly. And there are hundreds of examples I can rely on and to explain this, like beer companies, mobility companies. I remember one movie rental company, and I don't want to give any brands, but if you read the cases, you say, well, yeah, and then the internet provider increased the bandwidth, and now they were very popular. Of course, it's an external factor. You are not the owner of the bandwidth. It's an external company, and that's how Netflix became popular.
Yeah.
Because the technology allowed Netflix to grow indefinitely. Right. Or Uber, the regulation was very, very laxed in San Francisco. But it could not happen if they started in Boston, for example. And they have the ecosystem. You have MIT, you have Harvard, you have investors. Uber could not have been successful in Boston. Why? Because the Massachusetts regulation is very strict for mobility. But in California, it's very laxed. So those external conditions actually shape the success of a startup.
Also, what I observed among the founders is that those who over-focus on the result, they end up either willing to somehow hack or cheat the system, which you cannot do.
Yeah.
You have to go all the circles of, hell. And they keep losing motivation very easily and very quickly because whatever outcome, however you define it, will not be there soon. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon that you need a long run, thing to do. But if the founder is invested into the process, if the founder, we are, for example, as part of acceptance, admission to the corporate incubator accelerator program, there is short interview. We want to know the founder. And what I usually look into is how inspired the person is when they're talking about the problem that they want to solve. When that is what is driving you, when you're invested into the process, these are the ones who take longer, although they can also lose motivation because, again, it's an emotional roller coaster, an emotional hell, to do that.
Yeah.
A high level of insecurity, high level, nothing is there. You're building something out of the scratch, out of paper,
Yeah.
But these are usually those who tend to go further, go that extra mile that we want them to go, rather than those who are focused on and the outcome, however they define that.
Yeah. So, I'm a professor, so I'm very academic sometimes. I try to be more pragmatic. But there's an article, there's an academic article that's called Obliquity. Amazing article for any startup founder. I high Obliquity.
You remember the author?
Max, no.
Yeah, I'll find it.
I can't think
all
of.
All the movie, book, article recommendations will be
movie or book for me is it's called. I'm reading now a book. It's called the Four Agreements.
I love that.
I'm reading it now, like literally today. The Four Agreements. The article I recommend is Obliquity, because Obliquity talks about, and actually it's data backed. Okay, it's not just intuition. It's people and a psychologist that did a research on about companies or startups, founders whose vision was to make money, and he analyzed another group of founders whose vision was to create an impact. And actually, the obliquity model. So you move like obliquity. Those startup founders that focus on making a lot of money did not achieve that result. So those whose focus was on doing things in the right way, creating an impact, and being honest to the purpose of solving a problem, like you were mentioning before. If you stick to the problem and you want to solve a problem for a group of people, a community, those founders ended up being more successful economically, financially, than the founders whose objective was just to create money in the startup. So it's an obliquity model. Sometimes you reach your goals by traveling indirectly to the outcome. And actually, we met this amazing founder from Waze. I had the famous statement: "Now fall in love with the problem, not the solution." And it stick to solve something.
Yeah, you want to be passionate about
You want to be
solving
passionate about solving something, not making money. Money is a result.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the
Yeah.
objective.
Yeah. Because if money is your feedback, you will cheat the system.
Of course.
And it will punish you sometimes.
You will bias yourself to look for the right answers.
And you will make wrong decisions.
Exactly.
Which are not helpful, neither to startup, not to company, not to the team.
And there are easier and shorter ways to make money than being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A lot. Just be a consultant. Be a consultant, work 18 hours a day. You will make more money in average than the average entrepreneur. Because 99% of the people in entrepreneurship fail. So just by being a regular working in a consulting firm, you will make more money in average than the rest of the entrepreneurs worldwide. So there are shorter and better ways to make money if that's your result. And it's okay. Okay, it's okay if your outcome is I want to make money. That's okay. That's a valid objective, but it's not about being a truly entrepreneur that wants to solve a problem in society.
And from that perspective, again, money is important. I mean,
it is.
Want to have a good life, and for that, you need to be earning enough or to be doing something which is earning you money, to afford things and to afford a good life. The story here is that if you take money as a feedback from the environment that you are doing something valuable, that changes the whole perspective. You're not chasing the money. You are chasing to create something valuable that people will be ready to pay you for. And from that perspective, if you are doing something, it may be company, it may be job, that is not earning enough money, then the question is to you that why you keep doing things which is not valuable, which is not creating enough of value for the community you are in. So
100%.
what is, so using it not as an end game, you're not using it as a, holy, thing to worship, but as one of the feedbacks that you are receiving from the environment, that is what you are doing as a person, as a company, your product, your startup. Is it bringing value or not?
100%. And I was teaching today the golden circle model to Simon Sinek. And to very young kids, very young. The average age was 18 or 19. And I was trying to explain to them, because when you teach those the undergrad people, you need to give them tangible examples, not the theoretical, academic reflection. So I was giving them examples of brands they know. So what's the difference between the what and the why? And sometimes you confuse the why and the what. And I was giving them examples of Nike shoes or the Apple. Many of them had iPhones in their hands. So what do they do? Okay, Apple creates great phones and great computers. Okay, or Nike, they create amazing shoes for runners. I'm a runner. I'm preparing for a marathon. So I use Nike shoes because their shoes are like technologically very good. But this is not what they sell. If you look for any commercial or advertisement for Nike, they are not describing the features of the soles or the features of the leather of the fabric they use in the shoes. And Apple is never describing how many megapixels their camera has. What they describe in their value is what you can do with it. And the why of Nike is we believe there is an athlete in each one of our customers. Boom. So they're not telling you we sell shoes. They're telling you this is the transformation you get with us, with my product. You become an athlete if you want. Or the Apple example, if what you create is the ecosystem, everything you connect your computer, your phone, your headphones, whatever, your Apple Watch, everything is interconnected. So Apple is selling simplicity. They're not selling you the technology. There are 120 something patents involved in the ecosystem connectivity. When you turn on any device from Apple, they automatically connect. So there are more than 100 patents involved in that single action of, boom, recognizing the device and connecting it to the ecosystem. So they sell simplicity. They don't tell you, oh, we have the technology to connect all your devices. They don't sell that in the value proposition. They sell, we make your life easier. We want to change the way you communicate. And that's a why.
Yeah.
That's a purpose. That's a why of Nike is not to sell shoes, is to help you become an athlete, because they believe in the power of changing the world through sports. And that's a value proposition. We believe in changing the world through sports. So when you change the perception of the people you're teaching, in this case, these kids, they're like, wow, so they're not selling me shoes? No, look for any commercial from Nike, and or go to the new purposeful brands like Netflix is a purposeful brand. Apple, you have Adidas, you have Starbucks. So the Starbucks is selling you the experience of, I want my double decaf espresso with ice, with a skimmed lactose-free almond milk. That's my combination. Put a name in it. So it's my combination. It's unique. It's about the uniqueness of the experience. We might disagree if the coffee is good or not. That's another topic. But the combination of factors and the environment, you go for a cup of coffee in a relaxing environment, and that cup of coffee is yours. They put your name in the cup. So that's the experience they sell. That's a value. That's a why. The why is we want to create the best experience in coffee. That's a difference between what they do and why they do it.
We had Starbucks co-founders Dave Siegel in Merge, and that's what he was also talking about, that it's all about creating experience for people that matters. Because, we have this tendency to think that human beings are rational and making rational decisions.
No way.
And that's a huge miss. We are not. We are making very emotional decisions.
The limbic brain, Simon Sinek. Yeah. The limbic brain is the one driving emotions and the one driving decision-making process.
Yeah, exactly. So, and even like the people who are supposed to be the most rational, like investors, etc., among us human beings, even they, not rational. And then
we are human beings. Yeah. Come on, we're not still AI machines yet. So we're making decisions because we are human beings. We're biased all the time. You need to read Daniel Kahneman about the power of like the psychological effect of decision making and how much the internal biases drive behavior. The behavior of human beings is strongly biased by perception, culture, environment, past experiences, your current mood. Oh, I lost €1 million in crypto. I will not invest in crypto this year, So it's maybe 10 years ago you would do it. So there's no rational in your decision. So we tend to prioritize immediate reward and deprioritize long-term effects. So it's a psychological behavior that you need to analyze. And of course, we're talking here about many, many topics. And you just need to know how and why and what drives you as an entrepreneur. Because when I talk to my friends about this, man, if I had to follow all your advices, I would be reading the whole day and not doing anything. It's okay. You don't need to read every book, but you need to know the concept of what makes a good entrepreneur make decisions.
Because that is increasing awareness.
Yeah.
And awareness, awareness about the concepts, about the frameworks, awareness about yourself.
Yeah.
Is giving you the power of choice, choosing your behavior or your response to a situation. If you are not aware of that, the same very social or any other constructs will be totally hijacking your behavior, and they will be, guiding your behavior.
100%.
And that is the awareness which is giving you the chance to choose another response. And that is so important.
True.
Yeah. And from that perspective, and that coming back to your point we discussed earlier about soft skills. The founders who can build empathy with the customer, who can understand their emotional, stake, how they're making decisions, what is driving their decisions, are the one who will probably be able, to make it. And it's not, of course, it's very important to have technical team, etc. But this is, the better founder understands the customer, the higher chances that he will build up or she will build up a team.
And there is a famous quote from Sequoia Capital: investors look for founders, not ideas. Like, they look for the people. The idea might change. It is going to change. 100%. If it doesn't change, yeah. So what about the ability to be flexible? What about the ability to be resilient, to be customer-centric, to be empathetic, to be a team player? How many startups have we seen that the idea is amazing, they get the money, they get everything, and the team just doesn't work? And they end up splitting the team and the startup dies. It's like, whoa, I wish I could take it and do it myself. But there is, I think it's the number 3 or 4 reason of failure is team dynamics. Number 1 is not having the market need or the customer feedback. And in the top 5 is the team dynamics. Because starting a company, starting a startup is a risky decision. Knowing that you're going to fail, probably you're going to fail a lot. So why would you fail? What would you do something if you knew that 80% of the time you're going to fail? It's not rational, of course. Okay. If I tell you 80% of airplanes you take will crash, would you fly tomorrow? Probably not. But we start companies knowing, because we have the overconfidence, one more bias, psychological bias. We have the overconfidence. No, I can do it better. I'm not going to be in the 80%. Yeah, but you are. You will. There's 80% chances that you will be there. So there is this overconfidence factor of, I know I can do it. And this is the ego. We talk a lot about the ego in founder. No? There is a lot of egocentric approach in starting a company. I can do it. I can solve it. The others can't. I'm able. And usually that overconfidence leads to bad decisions in your career.
To conclude this part of our conversation about founders, and I know that in our audience there will be a lot of people who are either new in this journey of being a founder or considering, starting this journey. And you are a person who exited 2 of your startups, right? And this is, the end game that most of the teams we are working to is
tricky question.
Dreaming to arrive. So, what is it that you were doing that helped you to bring the company all the way to the exit, from an idea to something that you can? Is there? Do you see some common patterns, or it's like very different and very hard to compare to each other?
It's an easy answer. It's difficult. It's difficult to implement it. It's choosing the right people. It's an easy answer. I would start any new startup with exactly the same team members. I wouldn't change anyone. Not even the ones I fight or I have fights every day with. Because in my teams, there are people that they push me back a lot. They challenge me. They challenge me. Every meeting is like, oh, I don't want to put the boxer gloves on. But they do it, and this allows me to be like on top of. I cannot sleep on it. I have to be persistent because my team is gonna push me back. So I would start any new startup with exactly the same team because I know how they work. I know, and there is the chemistry that there is a new. I would say for 99% of the cases where there is a new problem, the team knows who needs to solve it without saying anything. This is on me. I take it because this is what I know, what I'm good at. So this team dynamic, I know, and they say, Rafa, you talk to people, and we do operations, and she does marketing, and she does whatever. And by the way, it's mostly women teams. Yes, diversity in this factor is amazing. It's an amazing factor. So one factor or one element that I see in successful startups is the team, the founding team. And the question is difficult to implement. It's an easy answer with a difficult implementation. Team is the answer. Implementation is, how do you find a team? There is no answer for this. So how I found my team, once again, I'm biased. This is my experience. Okay, I found a team not through friends, not family, not random people. It's people I worked with before. So there is something, because that if we're friends and we create a company, there is this relationship that you don't want to break. So I'm not gonna the friendship is always gonna be there on the table. But if you worked or random people, of course not. You will need to be very lucky to be good with random people, or I don't know, family. Woof, even worse. Okay, even worse. You want to have your Christmas dinner in peace, and not fight with everyone on the table. So one of the factors I see is, okay, I met these people working with them. So I know how they work, I know their values, I know their commitment, and then we became friends. So everything started in the work environment, and now we're very good friends. Like, she's one of my best friends now. But because the relationship was built on top of the commitment from the working environment. So that's one lesson I learned. Teams, and then the right partners. I was very lucky, and this is where serendipity comes, or boom, luck in the factor, that the founder or the co-founder that I had before we sold the company, he knew the right people to talk to. So maybe he has a good idea, or you have a good idea, but you don't know the people that you need to talk to get the money or the partnerships. So it's also about who you know. Once again, it's about the power of people. It's people and people involved, people in the team, people in the ecosystem. So he knocked the right door. And this is, introducing a new term that is not any investor is good. We need to look for smart money, which is the investor that actually helps you grow the company. Exactly. Yeah. Is that if you have €1 million or $1 million and you have two investors offering the same amount of money, who is going to walk with you in the journey, and who is just going to be a financial investor? So I don't recommend raising money if you're looking for financial investors. I would recommend raising money. And parenthesis here is not always the fact that you raise money is good. Okay. And, or you look for the investor that is willing to walk with you and complementing your skills and your abilities. So he knocked the right door. He knocked the door of investor that was willing to work with us, help us, push us forward, and actually open the doors for our startup. That was one of the key factors. The right startup team and the right investor with smart money. Because I am the same guy, and probably in another country, that idea would not have worked, or with another people. So once again, there is no formula here. There is no formula.
That's very interesting. And coming back to your point that it's easier, to start with people with whom you work with, because you know them already in working environment.
Yeah.
And probably you have gone through a lot with them already, stressful deadlines, challenging projects, and you can figure out who are the ones who, on one hand, have complementary skills to yours, and with whom you have this chemistry of, understanding each other and then making it smooth. Yeah. That's a very interesting point. Building on that, our dear colleagues, next time, be very, cautious about it. Maybe your founder is right there in that open space and at that office. Team up, come to Kickbox with your idea, and who knows where it's going to end up? No one knows.
No one knows. Once again, there is no formula. Maybe you tell me, I founded a company with my brother and it worked. Go ahead.
No. If you want to ruin a friendship or if you want to ruin a relationship, start doing a business.
Yeah, I would like to see a study of how many family members were actually successful in startups.
But investors also biased. They very biased for it.
Yeah. With married people in the same team, they don't like it.
Yeah.
What if you divorce? Who gets the rights? Who gets the shares? Who gets the equity? Who makes the decision here? Or are you gonna ruin the company because you're divorcing and you don't want the other one to be successful, So they don't like founders who are linked emotionally, like married or parent, son, whatever. Yeah, they usually don't like it. Makes sense at some point.
A lot of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rafa, for this conversation. That was very interesting, and we have touched upon, many interesting concepts. And I'm sure, I hope that it's going to be interesting for our audience too. I enjoyed it a lot. Hope that you too. We have a couple of rubrics that we usually repeat from, the podcast to podcast. And one of these is these rubrics of overrated and underrated. So I will give some concepts.
Okay.
Without thinking much.
Let's do it.
Yeah, don't take too much time to say
This is a trick.
Yeah.
It's a challenge here.
Tell me if you are thinking if it's overrated or underrated, right? So, and you can put a little bit of comment on that. Right?
Okay.
Working from home. Overrated.
Overrated. 100%. I need people to be at least once a month. I don't know. I need to see people. I need to interact. I think a lot of ideas and what's the concept of cross-pollination? Yeah. Come from having the coffee or drinking or just walking from the office to the subway station. I don't know. Like having these small interactions with people, the human
Emotional
factor.
presence.
Yes.
And I don't like Zoom meetings because they never give
you
the
lose
value,
50% of the communication.
being
So
there in the
my team lives in Bali, in
Yeah.
Indonesia. And I always emphasize at least twice a year, we spend a week together. We sit down in the same table and we talk and we meet and we do crazy things. Okay. Yes, you need it. So overrated.
corporate entrepreneurship. Be honest.
Underrated.
Okay. Yeah.
And for me, the reason is very simple. There is a concept that is called venture client, which is the startup is born with a client already in the portfolio, which is a corporation. So if a corporate is like Pasha, if you're creating a fintech startup of micropayments, the first client is going to be Pasha. He's already there. So you already have the starting point, the spark, to initiate.
Yeah. Work-life balance.
Ooh, underrated. Underrated.
Yeah.
You need it. You're. I was talking to my the M&A, my boss now. He said something very interesting. There is this misconception. Be careful, okay? There is this conception of personal and work life. And he said, Rafa, it should be the same. It should be the same under this condition. You spend more than 40% of your time working. How can you be two people? You need to be the same person. You need to be happy with your work. You need to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to my office and I'm going to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy 40% of your life, you're wasting it. You're putting it in the garbage. So the work-life balance, it should be good enough so people spend their life working, or the 40% of their life working and enjoying it. So this is where it overlaps a little bit with your personal life. Your personal life should also be part of your working life. You should be able to enjoy and fulfill yourself and be happy and be like fully satisfied with your work. So for me, it's underrated.
Incubators.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Yes.
Noted. Cryptocurrencies.
Overrated.
Oh.
And I have positions in crypto, and it's a hype. There is no intrinsic value in it.
Yeah.
When you buy a land and you invest in a land, that land is producing money from itself. There is an intrinsic value. I buy a land and I grow potatoes and I get potatoes from the land. If I buy a Bitcoin, I need someone else crazier than me to pay more because the Bitcoin itself doesn't produce anything. So there is no intrinsic value. So I need a more stupid guy than me to believe in the higher price so I can make money. So it depends on the perception. There is no intrinsic value. It depends on the perception and whatever they value. Why it goes down and up and down and up and down? Because it's a hype. I'm giving too long answers, I think.
Yeah, no, it's okay. University degrees. Overrated.
Whoa, I'm a university professor. So,
I'm teaching too.
I think the model is outdated.
Okay.
The degree still,
Yeah.
yeah. But the model, I'm actually working with IE to create a new model of exponential learning where you can tailor your education yourself. So the degree should not be like a fixed box. For me, it should be like a Lego you build yourself. But the modules, your own path. And I see it, like I saw it last week. I was teaching innovation and before me, there, well, I don't want to say the topic, they will know it. But there was a guy very finance oriented and my students were like, I don't need accounting. I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be just an entrepreneur. Why do I need accounting? Well, you need it, guys. No, I will hire an accountant if I need it. So some modules are not that efficient. So you need, from my perspective, the new education model should be tailored to whatever you need. Okay, I'm answering too long.
No.
Okay.
Emerge.
Ooh,
Overrated.
underrated. I told you already. I think the impact that you created in the audience in October when I came here. Well, I'll tell you two things. I think it was. I need to be careful what I say. Well, I'm being honest. I was very surprised in a negative way. Okay. With the few people that were in the audience when Linda gave the workshop, the masterclass. Wow. You know what's having this woman who is super bright, mind blowing. She was explaining the innovation models for corporation, and there were like 50 people in the audience. I don't know, maybe 100, but the auditorium was empty. I was looking back. I was, wow. If people knew the value of this woman coming here, if people knew how hard it is to bring these profiles to Azerbaijan, making the agendas fit, making the economic effort. And I was like, that's why I'm choosing my words, because I was surprised by, wow, this profile, but I was negatively surprised by the few amount of people that were in the audience.
You want more people to benefit from that. Yeah. Linda Hill, the workshop, the speech that she gave, which was not so long, it was rather short, but
yeah.
I do remember having so many aha moments while she was talking, and that was like, oof.
I mean, you do this same conference in New York, and you have 10,000 people outside queuing to listen to one of the speakers, like the Amazon profile, the CTO, the guy from the startups, from investors, from Harvard, from Stanford. You would have 1,000 people outside waiting for tickets. So that's coming back to my previous comment. I think we are, Azerbaijan is still in a very nascent stage of entrepreneurship. In 10 years from now, I would expect 1,000 people queuing outside Emerge to see these workshops, Yeah, but you need to invest now. You need to invest. I don't mean economically. You need to invest in time, effort, human resources to create this ecosystem.
Absolutely. 2 more to go.
Yeah.
Individual KPIs. Overrated, underrated.
Individual KPIs.
Like KPIs which are driving.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm a team player promoter. Okay, I'm a team work enthusiast. But you need personal KPIs. You need personal incentives. KPIs linked to incentives. Okay? If I'm measuring you, it's because I need to improve something. In order to improve, I need you to incentivize the model. Okay. So personal KPIs, yes, linked to incentives, and plus team KPIs. You're part of an ecosystem. You're part of a team. You're part of a group. You're part of a community. That could be your startup team, your department, your area, your company, whatever. So yes, but.
I believe you all partially answered to that, but still, team building activities.
100%.
Yeah.
Super underrated
Yeah.
because it should be more.
Yeah.
There should be more. We should put more focus on it.
Yeah.
And asking tough questions to your team members.
Yeah.
I remember I had a brilliant, amazing professor in personal development. That was the name of the course while I did my MBA. There, I remember many things from her, but one of the most important things is the first day of your startup or your company or your work, the first day you enter in Pasha, your manager should ask you to write a contract on how is it to work with you. How is it to work with Rafael? Well, I like to have, this is my contract. This is the instructions, like IKEA instructions. This is how I am assembled as a person. I like my mornings to be free because I need to concentrate. I need to work in silence for 2 hours a day. If you see me with my, like simple things, if you see me with my headphones, do not interrupt me. I'm working concentrated in some creativity task. Or if I get mad, don't try to make me happy. Give me some time, I'll come back to you. Like some sort of agreements. And that is something and I use it in my startup, okay? So it's like a contract of how is it to work with me. That is one thing. And the other one is a game that she had, like a card game, where she had tough questions about your personal aspect. What are your fears? What gets you mad? What gets you out of your alignment? Or what do you care most about life? So these type of questions that are very tough for people to answer actually create a connection in the team.
But it also requires line portion of self-awareness. I mean,
of course,
you need to be self-aware,
right.
to
You're
put
right.
that there.
Right. These questions are important. If you want to create a good psychological safety environment, you should be able to ask and answer these questions to your teammates.
Yeah.
So, underrated.
Yeah. Cool. And last thing, and again, our audience are the people who are eager to start their journey as founders. What would be your probably advice to them, like 3 books, 3 movies? I mean, we have made already we have touched upon some books, we have touched upon some articles, but your recommendation, maybe 3 books and 3 movies that.
Books, for sure, the Thinking Fast, Slow from Daniel Kahneman. I'm about to start reading The Power of Regret. Very powerful, from Dan Pink. And there's another book, I don't know if the title is correct, is Misbehavior from Dan Ariely. He talks about the biases that interfere with your rational analysis. And he talks a lot about why we lie as human beings. We lie a lot, by the way. We lie a lot. We lie to ourselves. We lie, I'm going to wake up tomorrow to go to the gym. No, you're not. And you lie to your colleagues and you lie to your family and friends. So why? It's okay. It's a human nature, okay? But why we lie? It's called misbehavior. The other one is The Power of Regret. And the third one is Thinking Fast and Slow, which is also what drives our actions. Those will be my 3 books. Read the article. The Obliquity is very important. Yeah. Very good. So my favorite movie is Origin or Inception. It depends in which language. From with Leonardo DiCaprio. Mm-hmm. It's like and why? Because every time I see it, I see something different. Or everyone has a different interpretation of whatever happens in the movie. So for me, that movie is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's a very interesting and very honest conversation. It was a huge pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And hope to hear back from anyone listening to the podcast.
Rafa, we have this, I want to say tradition, but experience when the previous guest of the podcast is writing the question in our book for the next guest. Last time, our guest, Chief People Officer of Pasha Holding at Bonn, left a question to you, not knowing who is the next guest. So, two things. One is I would ask you to answer the question. And second, I will ask you to leave your question for the next guest. All right, so let's start with the first. How are you complicit creating the conditions for yourself which you don't want to?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the structure of values. Wow, this is going to be a very high level question. But I mean, high level, I mean, and I need to give tangible examples. Okay, so I think all of us have a structure of values. Whether you know or you're aware of those values or not, you have them. Okay, because you make decisions, and your actions are driven by your values. So how are you complicit creating the conditions against those values, against the things that make you know? So when and I have this problem, so I'm complicit 100%. I'm creating the conditions against me, against myself. But it requires a lot of bravery. You need to be brave to accept that you are not aligned with what you are willing in your life. Okay, that's the first thing. The first step is being aware. Okay. Yes, I want to have a more balanced life. I want to have priorities with my family. I want to have a more impactful job. But I'm accepting everything that comes into my agenda. Okay, let's say it that way. So I'm doing a coaching program. Well, it's like a list of seminars where I sit down face to face with a personal coach, career and personal coach. And that question, or not directly the question, but that issue came like a month ago. What's wrong? What do you feel is not vibrating your life? And what part of it would you like to change? And we started with the professional life, and it's a mess because I already have my calendar booked till June next year with trips and flights and crazy life. But in my values, it's the word family comes a lot. The word balance, the word personal life, the word impact. But on the other hand, I'm contradicting myself by accepting exactly the opposite, which is not being there, present for my life, for my personal family. Okay? So, and this happens a lot with people who are overachievers, who are driven by impact, by success, by excellence. So one of the modern life conflicts is, how do you align your internal values with your external life? And this question is about that. If you need to sit down and there is a model that I worked on. It's called the 7 values model. You create a pyramid of values. You should be brave enough to open this conversation with people. My ultimate value is bliss, which is beyond happiness. It's like completion of happiness. So, and that ultimate goal of life is supported by 7 values. Are you consistent and coherent? And are you true to yourself? Putting everything in your life through those values. So I'm doing an exercise now in this week about, it's like a filter. It's like a Christmas tree. You have the star in on top of the tree, and you have like the structure supporting that bliss, which is in my case my value. So, and it should be like a filter. Pass any decision through that value structure, and if one of the three branches is cracking, there is something not good in that decision. Is taking that position resonating with your values? Is I don't know, is accepting that offer, or moving to another country, or marrying someone, or making a life decision that is important. Of course, I'm talking about important decisions, not like just buy tomatoes or lettuce. Some important decisions in your life. If you pass those decisions through your tree of values and one of the branches is not strong enough, like personal life for me, I don't know, moving, I have an offer to move out of Spain to another country now. Is that decision going to affect one of my strong values in my values tree? If yes, think twice why you're doing it. And the answer is not bad. If you say, yes, I sacrifice this value, I sacrifice, family for the next 5 years because there is an upside in, in financial stability. That's okay. But be honest. The answer should not be yes or no. It should be, where does the answer come from? Is it coming from your belief, or is it coming from an external decision? It's not an easy answer. It's not an easy question, but it requires a lot of time and self-awareness.
Thank you so much for such an honest answer. And I'm also going to be honest, I do that a lot to myself too. And the tricky thing is that I have that part which knows the truth, which whispers all the time, but I'm so skilled to tune it down and to create these intellectual, logical conditions of why I'm doing this, and et cetera, which are very hard to crush. Which are, making this choice sound so much logical and right thing to do. But then there is whisper there, which is telling you,
we lie to ourselves.
Are you honest? Are you honest right now? And the challenge right now that I'm going personally in my life is that, all right, I do that. But having that skill in the moment when I took that path, of not listening to myself, but going through these intellectual, logical conditions, stopping and returning back.
Yeah.
I will be deviating probably. That's the way how my personality is.
It's okay if you deviate, but you need to know why. Be honest.
Yeah. And then finding your path back. And usually these are hard decisions. The one that are bringing you, my decisions, which were bringing me back to my values and myself, were the hardest decisions I was making, but never regretted about them.
Very good.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now I need to find a very tough question for the next one.
Please do.
I'm going to nail it.
Yes, you're going to make the revenge. Yeah. And while Rafa is writing down his very tough question for our next guest, I want to take a minute to thank everyone who has been watching us. I hope that you enjoyed our conversation. I hope that you found something for yourself. And we will be waiting for you in our next episodes. Until then, take care.